Hey guys, before this video gets started, I just want you to know that I'm super excited to finally be able to share it. It's been well over a year in the making to get both EFI systems, to get them installed, to get the cars done, especially since the square body was my personal car, and with all this work, we don't have a whole lot of time to get to it. So we're going to try to answer all your questions on cost, what they look like, what they feel like, how they install, and how they run. Make sure you stay tuned. At the very end of the video, I'll give you my personal opinion as well as my experience. All right, guys, welcome back to the Family's Garage. Today we got a pretty interesting topic I think a lot of you are going to be interested in, because a lot of us don't have a chance to use multiple EFI setups unless you own your own shop or you build multiple cars. Usually you kind of do the research you can, and based on the information you have and money, you buy the best system you can afford and go from there. So we're going to take this opportunity and compare directly the new Holley Sniper 2 versus the FiTech Go EFI. These are pretty comparable systems. The price is very similar. The Go EFI is a little cheaper. The Holley has a little bit more functions, but let's do everything from cost analysis to initial impressions, and then we're actually going to install both of these systems. We're going to install the Go EFI on a very mild 350 in a square body pickup. We're going to install the Holley Sniper 2 on a big block 428 in a 66 T-Bird. So stay tuned, you're gonna love it. All right, we're gonna first start with the FiTech Go EFI system. This is good for up to 450 horsepower. And I'm starting here because I'm pretty excited about this one. I've done a lot of Holley Snipers. I've heard the Sniper 2 fixes a lot of the issues that I personally have had and my customers have had with the Holley Sniper, but I really wanted to check this one out. So let's get started with the Go EFI. First of all, we have a big sticker. Everybody loves those, and a bunch of directions. The packaging actually looks really good. It's in a high density foam case, very protected. I don't know what that is. Can't wait to play with that. Put that back in the bag so I don't scratch it. The unit itself is almost like a carburetor cadmium plating. It's like a bronze. I like this coating so much. I color matched the wheels of my own C10 project to this color. We got red barrels. Everything's nice and tidy. The harnesses are all tied up in the back. You got your silica gel. Don't need it. What else is in the box? So this little white box, I wonder what this is. Coolant temp sensor. Underneath the first layer we have expandable wiring harness. This looks like a relay of sorts, not sure. Oh, look at that. Little relay fuse box. That's pretty cool. I have not seen that in the competitors. This looks like it's going to the display unit. The typical strap-on O2 sensor. We got a Bosch, pretty typical O2 sensor. You can get those at any store. We got gaskets. We've got coolant sensor adapters, extra fuses, and a windshield mount for the EFI control pad. So lots of cool features there right in the package. Next is the Holley Sniper 2. So I've installed quite a few Holley Snipers. They all have the same issues, and I've heard that the new Sniper 2 fixes most of those issues. So let's go ahead and open it up and check it out. Standard UPS packaging. We got just a bag. So far, the Go EFI is winning in the packaging department. So this thing is just kind of loosely, everything's loosely packaged. Our lower box is already crushed, but our instructions are safe in plastic. So we have the wiring harness. I see a relay. I don't see a cool little power junction port, but Holley is pretty easy to install. They give you plenty of wire to run a fuel pump all the way at the back of the car. Then what's in here? Here we go. Here we have the Holley screen. You can see it's much bulkier, not as large. They did fix that connector. If you're familiar with Holley Sniper 1 at all, you had a little CAN bus connector there that was about impossible to get apart without breaking it. I've actually had to replace a customer's handheld unit myself in the past, so kudos for fixing that, Holley. We have the O2 sensor install kit. We have another Bosch sensor, coolant temp sensor, expandable wiring harness, and some loose gaskets, as well as a little stylus for the control pad. I don't recall that in Sniper 1 either. Let's take a look at the unit. This customer wanted the Endura Shine looking one. You have 3 options with Holley Sniper. You can get black, a bronzy carburetor look, or the polished look. What's new? So we've already talked about one of the new features, the new port for the display. That's a huge improvement. Supposedly, they've lengthened the throttle throw. Any of you guys drive Holley Snipers and you have very touchy throttle, the car's jerking and bucking, usually it's because right here, the Holley had so much spring pressure and the attachment point was so low, you couldn't tune that out. All my customers, I usually extend this by 1 inch and it fixes the problem right off the bat. But they've supposedly added some link to this to fix that. They've got the computer moved from the front of the original Holley to the side, and then you've got fuel pickups like a standard Holley to run a Holley fuel rail. Very nice, make it look even more like a carburetor. But the big improvement is inside. You can't see. The fuel injectors are now hard bolted in instead of just pressed in. Holley 1, you could have some fuel injector issues with them vibrating loose. Standard Holley, you got plenty of vacuum ports for anything you need. I suspect this is going to be an easy install and it's going to work. You have your power harness, your options harness, and your coolant temp sensor harness. Let's talk price for a second. So I got this off of Summit Racing. This is just the fuel injection kit. It's not the master kit or the fuel pump kit. Just a touch under 800 bucks, about 781 if I remember. The Holley Sniper 2 is new. It's not on sale. I think the kit we got here, which is not with the fuel pump kit, was $1288. Same from Summit Racing also. We didn't get the fuel kit because we're gonna have to do a custom tank in a 66 T-Bird. Tanks Inc. does not make a tank for that car. We'll have to buy a stock tank, cut a 4-inch hole, and use their adjustable fuel pump setup. For our FiTech install, we got a Tanks Inc. standard tank for the C10 chassis. So little comparison there also. So I can't wait to get started on getting these installed. All right, let's talk about fuel tanks. So for both of these projects, while we're using 2 different fuel injection systems, we went to Tanks Inc. for most of the fuel components. So for the square body pickup here behind me, reproduction square body tank, it comes with the filler fitting, it comes with the gaskets for the sender and the pump. It does not come with these straps and the rubber. We've sourced those from another supplier. As you can see, it comes with the sender. You have to fully build this. They've got directions, no worries. This is their PA4 pump. See, it's the small size. This pump is supposedly good for 450 horsepower. For the T-Bird, Tanks Inc. didn't make a tank, and I see why. The way this tank is shaped, this is the back of the trunk floor, this is the top of the trunk floor, this is the axle. There's just no room. So we bought one of Tanks Inc.'s recesses for the PA4 pump. So that will allow us, same pump basically as far as horsepower and flow. However, it's going to be in this assembly right here that gives you the reservoir. You know, when we build it all, the pump will be in here. There's only one little spot for fuel to get out. So if you get low on fuel and you're doing, you know, some canyon carving, you're always going to have fuel available. We sent this out to a local shop. We'd like to send a shout out right now to Carter's Custom Fabrications. He got this done for us in one day. Welded, pressure tested, and back. Couldn't ask for more than that. It simply slides down in here. Once you build it, it's got all the fittings. We're gonna have to drop the tank on spacers about 3/4 of an inch because the fuel lines are gonna have to come out from this recess to get to the fuel regulator and obviously the return. So that basically wraps up the fuel delivery system. Like I said, totally different ways to do it, but all this stuff except this tank is available from Tanks Inc. So just do some research, figure out how you want to do it, and give them a call, make the order. All right, so that wasn't too difficult at all. What we've got here is our complete fuel pump drop-in assembly. Obviously, if your fuel tank wasn't as deep as ours, you would trim this backbone accordingly. We actually had to extend ours just a little bit to get down near the bottom of the tank. We mounted our pump, return line, feed hoses. Everything's trimmed to fit. Everything fits in here with the pre-filter. And the return actually returns fuel to your reservoir to help even more with fuel starvation. These little things right here are awesome. They're wire pass-throughs. So as you can see right now, the wire moves. We'll take a 9mm wrench and we'll tighten this down until the wire no longer moves back and forth. So we'll just install our vent fitting once we find it, and we will get this in the tank and get the tank in the old T-Bird. Then you have the main harness here. This one is ordered with the fuel pump relay. You can get it without. It looks daunting, but it's very simple. One harness, yellow is tack. You're not going to use this at all unless you have a CD box for the ignition. Fuel pump relay and fuse. This is your little options harness we was talking about. This is the CAN bus to the display unit. White wire, we're not using. Pink, switch 12 volts. Black and red, obviously power and ground straight to the battery. Do not deviate from that. And your fuel pump wire going all the way back to the fuel pump. Very simple. And you can duplicate that by looking at the instructions. This optional harness I was talking about here, which is this one, connecting here. That's if you're going to be doing any of that. In this car, we are not. So very simple installation here. So on the FiTech side of the house, very similar. You have a main power harness. The orange wire here goes back to the fuel pump. Red wire goes to the battery. Yellow wire is fan switch. I think blue over here is coil negative. I love that FiTech has this little box right here. So this top pops off like so, if I can. There we go. And you can see your fuel pump relay, your electric fan relay, and your main fuses are all in this nice tidy little box you can mount on the firewall or under the dash, anywhere you want to. So I really put that back together. I really like that. Well, moving right into the O2 harness installation, you can see it's very simple. We've done quite a few of these. This is all the components. You have a high temperature gasket, your actual holder, your O2 sensor, and then you have 2 stainless steel clamps. Now, if you don't put some kind of anti-seize, I like Permatex. There even is a high temperature one. You can use a copper based one if you want. They don't come on and off. You should put this on once and really be done with it. But if you don't put some kind of anti-seize on these stainless steel threads and this stainless steel nut, I guarantee you'll destroy these putting them on. Ask me how I know. I have done this enough times to the point where I have a spare kit over here just in case it still destroys itself. So take the time and caution. Don't put your freaking screw gun on here and tighten these down. You'll destroy them. Use a wrench, nice and slow, no rush. We finally found a way to get through the firewall on the 66 T-Bird. We got the display cable out. We're going to have to run this in, put it on a switch, because this ignition, just like most old cars, doesn't have 12 volts in crank and run. We jump over to the FiTech install on the C10. We've got the full pump plumbed, routed, wired, as well as a sender. We made pigtails here so we can go ahead and get this in the truck. We'll route this up to the return. We'll route the feed up to a filter and then on up to the EFI unit up there. We did get some front assemblies on, but that's not what this video is about. So, onward. Sitting on the engine there, all the wiring neatly tucked away in the back. We haven't permanently mounted parts of the engine to be able to bolt it down securely, but you can see that's where that goes. And when you put the air cleaner on, again, you'd have to look very hard to know it's even fuel injected. All right, so we've got our O2 sensor in the exhaust. We've got our power wires hooked up, and just for the moment for this test, we've got the pink wire stretched over to give it 12 volts. I want to go ahead and set up the wizard. So you can see here, it's telling us a warning, there's no setup, so we hit wizards, sniper wizard, sniper 2, next, number of cylinders, 8, engine displacement is 428. All right, next. Target idle speed, I'm gonna try for 900 at first. Next. Cam is stock mild. Power adder is none. RPM to sniper is a coil negative. So it's gonna go ahead and pick a tune and load it into the engine. And we'll go ahead and get some fuel. I heard the fuel pump. Please cycle the ignition to complete the operation. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now it's time to start the car up for the first time. We've got everything here saying we're good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and fire it up. Remember, it won't start self-tuning until it hits 160 degrees. We already know we're a little bit low on voltage. We'll see if that gets any better once the engine starts running. And basically that's it. So now we'll actually give it key switch 12 volts. We will route the display into the car so that next time we start it, we can actually let it warm up and start some self-tuning. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and wrap the EFI install up on the 66 T-Bird 428 big block. Other than the only place I could find to run the regulator right there, you'd have to look really hard to see that it's even fuel injected. So what we ended up doing was mounting the Sniper box here next to the tilt-away steering column. You still have a really good view here while you're driving, so we turn the key on, gives us our new cool custom auto sound stereo. I didn't know you could make those green. That's a really cool option. Then we go ahead and flip our fuel injection on. We boot up and see the initial RPMs climbing for warm up as we're below 160 degrees. We're in closed loop. The air fuel's tuning itself, and we've got a lot of IAC right now due to the high idle at warm up. As the engine warms up in temperature, the idle will drop to my predetermined 750 RPM setting, and the IAC will continue to drop. But she's running like a sewing machine. I would love to take her on a test drive today, but this car is way too nice to go out on this 50-degree rainy morning in Georgia, so that'll have to wait. But that essentially wraps up the fuel injection install, the Sniper 2 setup. See, you can see as the temperature warms up, RPM decreases, IAC decreases, totally normal. There you have it. Well, this car was kind of difficult to do the EFI on, probably not the best candidate. The Sniper 2 is a really good setup. I wasn't stoked on having to run an external regulator, but it is what it is. As far as tuning, startup, and running, it runs great. So we'll get it out on the highway, take a cruise before we deliver to the customer and see what's up. We did get the fuel tank. We got the fuel tank installed on the C10 yesterday, but we have not been able to get back over there. So one vehicle at a time, right? Got cars everywhere around here. So you're in initial setup?
Go into EFI initial setup.
Yep. Engine setup, hit enter. 8 cylinders, scroll down, it's a 350.
So edit.
Mm-hmm. Boop. All right, okay. Cam, mild to wild. Go down to 1, it's a mild cam.
Mild to wild. It's okay. Wild.
Rev limit, go down to like 5,500 for now. Engine idle RPM, let's do 750.
Ready?
Yep. She scrapes the front end. What do you want to bet?
good at that. Idle. Sounds good.
That video you just watched was about that truck over there and a client's T-Bird. So the T-Bird has been off for well over 6 months. He drives it just about every day. He loves it. We did have to go in and tweak the fuel squirt. Like, I don't know if you heard when I turned the key, you hear a click under the hood. That's the initial squirt of fuel to wet the intake walls. So on a cast iron big block, once it's been warmed up, you need a little bit more fuel than, say, a small block Chevrolet with aluminum intake. So we did have to tweak that. But other than that, that car has been 100% drivable. Guy just loves it. The FiTech installation, not so much. So I ended up actually throwing the FiTech away. I've done quite a few Holleys. The FiTech just wasn't up to par as far as startup and drivability. It took about a week of me tuning, calling the company, watching these YouTube videos they keep telling me to watch, and I just could not get this truck to run right. Every time I started it, it would act different. Sometimes it would rev to 2,000 RPM and then fall down to my 800, and sometimes it would barely crank over, acting like it's flooded, and then barely start running and get up to my RPM. So I was very unhappy with it. And then I had a fuel fitting failure, a push lock fuel line that wasn't push lock failed, caused a little fire, did some damage to the truck, and I took the stuff off and threw it away. So my personal opinion is that the FiTech is garbage. So if you're on a budget and you only want to do this one time, get the Holley. Also, with the extra CAN bus fitting, the Holley can now run your phone for gauges. It has a Bluetooth unit. It can run the digital dash. Like, the Holley can just do everything, and the FiTech does nothing. Drop a comment down below and let me know your personal experience.